Welcome to another episode of The Real Hosts of Short-Term Rentals. We have a special guest with us today. His name is Alex DeCamp, and he is the founder of Great Stays out of Detroit. Alex manages over 30 properties, and his background is in banking, real estate, and real estate development and hospitality. Alex is also building a company called Treadwell Hospitality, which is a next-generation hospitality brand that blends sustainability, natural luxury, and deep integration with local culture. Alex, welcome to our podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, Alex, maybe you can start with a little bit of a background. You came from banking and real estate development, and how did you get from there up to 30 properties with Great Stays?
Yeah. So it's all, looking back, I didn't see it, but it's all kind of connected. I was a lender a long time ago, and I ended up going back to school, to grad school for urban planning and getting my master's in urban planning. And I also received my certificate in real estate development, which was kind of a program that would, real estate development. It's all you can't you teach it, but it's a lot of you have to get hands-on experience. But while I was at school in Ann Arbor, the whole idea was I was going to get back to Detroit, and try to, make an impact by working in the city. And I came out to the city with the bank I was working at, and another bank kind of reached out to me, and I had this incredible interview and became a community development manager where I got these really cool programs. I was in Michigan, I was in Ohio, but I mean my focus was Detroit, where I would work on lending programs and small business lending and development projects for areas that are part of what's called the Community Reinvestment Act, areas that aren't traditionally served by the banks, but they have locations of banks, but they don't get the investment dollars. So I got to meet and work on some really cool projects, meet some really cool people. And during that time, I always wanted to develop myself, met some people, formed some partnerships, and started developing projects in the city, small scale, 6 units, 7 units. Largest was a 20 unit. And the folks at the bank were good with it. And, I would develop these projects. And when we were finished with them, we had them as rentals. And some people that started renting from us actually had this idea, this concept of short-term rental. And I remember this was 2015, 2016. And looking back, I wish I had done it back then, but it took me a few years, and became friends with these tenants. And the woman who actually rented a lot of the units from us, her brother managed everything for her in the city. And he met somebody, and he was going to move away, and she had to kind of offload some of these units. And we were like, you know what, we're interested, and we kind of just took them over. Now, I should add that by this time I had already gotten a little bit interested myself, and I had built one out myself that I was managing, and I really liked how it was going. But you know how it is with your first one. You do everything. Everything was as luxury as I could make it. I had somebody managing it for me, but I was paying attention to every message. I mean, it must have been terrible for him. But when our tenant, she scaled down and went from 10 from us down to about three, we ended up taking over some of those. And so for the partnership I had, I was managing for both groups. And this is right around the same time that or not for both groups, I was managing for my the partnerships I had for those buildings. But I wasn't really collecting anything. And so I'm working full time with a bank, managing these properties, and I'm also developing real estate. And along the way, I just kind of realized that, I joined some masterminds, the same ones that everybody here is part of, and kind of learned that I needed to focus on, that one thing. And that one thing that really got me excited was, short-term rentals. So that's what happened. And from there, I've just been growing. Left the bank in 21, and here I am.
Super. It's interesting. I mean, everyone has a different story, different background of how they got into this space. The properties that you manage, are these individual homes, or are they part of a whole condo complex, or apartments? Or what is the structure of most of them?
Yeah, there's a mix, and it's, in Detroit, of the 30, I have ownership stake in just over half of them, and those are apartments. The ones that I own are apartments and buildings, so maybe it's
Yeah.
a portion of the apartments in a building. But then I started managing for other people, and those are homes or condos or townhomes. I'm kind of geographically based. We're in Detroit. I have a team that can handle all the different housing types, and then I also have properties in Ann Arbor, and those are apartments or single family homes. Regulations a little different out there. I'm kind of more into the midterm or midterm rental market out there.
Yeah. And speaking of your team, tell us a little bit about the structure and how many people are involved and what people do as part of that.
Okay, so this is where I am focused right now on the team. So I have maintenance. Well, let's start from the beginning. So it's me, and everything everything goes through me. Anybody in this industry knows that. I think we could agree that once you get to a certain point, for me, it's 30. It's too much for one person. And so what I'm focused on right now is an ops person. And this is something I heard from the very beginning, but I was always afraid, are they going to be as good as me? Can I afford them? Can I, will
Mhm.
what happens if they don't work out? And I'm at the point right now where I don't think I could afford to not hire somebody. I have to get somebody on the team. But but with that being said, all guest communication is handled with my staff of virtual assistants.
Mhm.
I have a team of five that are out of the Philippines and South America,
Mhm.
and they handle everything for guest communications. They handle basically anything that's necessary for dealing with the OTAs or guest communication or making sure that everything's running smoothly. Then I have two cleaning companies that I work with, and I'm always looking to add vendors there. Utilizing Breezeway and PMS system, everything's automated for them to come and clean the properties. They set the reports. Reports are sent in, and my team looks at those reports. And then I have maintenance team. I have kind of general maintenance like labor, and I have kind of more specialized maintenance. Then they're all just hourly. They're 1099. And then
Mhm.
I have vendors for heating, electricity, and plumbing, which are used quite often. If there's anything that we need for like be delivered to the property or delivered to the property, or maybe there's a specialty, we get a special maintenance person that we don't have, we will then use the apps such as Instacart. We use that a lot. And we also use TaskRabbit. And we've actually found some of the people we work with through TaskRabbit
Interesting.
or Thumbtack. Thumbtack, actually, we use more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I met someone a while back that had never he'd never visited any of his properties before. And I said, "How is it possible that you've never visited your properties?" He said, "Well, when the photo shoot is done, I do a virtual walkthrough, and then if there's something wrong with the sink upstairs, I do a loom showing the virtual walkthrough to where the sink is, and put that on Thumbtack, and get quotes from various plumbers, and that's how he operates the business." It was really interesting.
Is that guy's name Sean by chance?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Sean's great. I love that guy. And he introduced me to the Thumbtack.
Yeah, yeah, no, really interesting. I have another question, and then I'm going to open it up to our group, and that is on Jasper Rivers' podcast. You mentioned that you were starting to use AI more in your business, and I'm really curious. I mean, AI has sort of come into the forefront now, and everyone talks about AI for everything. But I'm curious to know how you are using AI in your business today.
Sure. Yeah. So we've done a few things. I mean, I've been messing around with ChatGPT for the last couple of years. Just mostly at the beginning, it was for copy, right? For how can I create better listings? I had paid for a website creator years ago, and I was stuck because I had to draft this whole website. After ChatGPT came out, I had the website in a day or two. So I've used it to help me with tasks like that. But then along the way, how can I use it to actually make things run more smoothly? And all the software we work with is using it right now, right? The PMS that I work with, which is Owner Res, they have an AI assistant that I think I'm on the waiting list for. It's in beta right now.
Mhm.
But Breezeway uses it. I use SuiteOp. SuiteOp uses it. All these different software have it because they know that they have to use it if they want to stay competitive. So
Mhm.
so most of the stuff that I do is either through the software or it's some sort of version of ChatGPT. So my team, really what it does though is it creates a cohesive voice for my team. So right now I created a team login for ChatGPT. We call it, we have a name for it and people can go in there. And that's a hub of information. It connects to our Google Drive. If they have a question, they can go in there and ask about a specific property, can pull it. Everything's not 100% yet because we're still working out the kinks, but they can get information. It's kind of like what Notion wants to do for you if you want to put all your data in one area. But we can do this, and it's and using ChatGPT as well. Then we also create projects in there. So we have a customer facing project, I guess you'd call it, which uses examples of how we interact with customers, the voice, a common voice that we have, and it allows the team to go in there and draft up responses and make sure that they work and whatnot. Same thing for dispute resolution. We copy we put the documents in there. These are the rules that you need. This is how you can win a dispute. And then we say, hey, this is the scenario. How does this help us craft a dispute resolution in here? Also, we worked on this, and people don't use it as much or people don't ask us as much because I think they also are using AI, but a local tour guide. These are the restaurants we like. These are the sources we like for tour guides in the city. Use this so when somebody asks us the questions, we can spit something out. And then something that one of the software does that I like a lot, they look at the reviews, and if something keeps on coming up in the reviews, then it automatically creates a task, which then is sent to the team so we can look at it and see if this is something we need to work on. And just in general, I use it to brainstorm ideas. When I'm driving, I have it on voice and I talk back and forth with it. I created the job description for my the operations manager, and I also used it for. I know on the podcast with Jasper, we talked about Laundromat. I used it to help me find locations for the real estate for the laundromats that I was looking at. I created a map, I overlaid some things, and then I basically said, hey, this is what I created. What can you tell from this map? And we did a deep dive into the areas, and we found like target areas based on that information. So I thought that was pretty cool as well.
Wow, that's great that you're utilizing it in so many different ways. And I think that a lot of people watching this can get ideas from that. I'm going to open up this to this discussion to the rest of our group. We've got Liam from the UK. We've got Dina from Kelowna, Canada, on the western part of Canada. And we've got Michael from Seattle. What questions do you guys have for Alex?
My big curiosity is, holy moly, you have a lot of VAs. So because you're still, am I on mute? No. Okay. Because you're still the man in charge of everybody, how are you not babysitting 5 people, and how are you keeping them busy? Like sometimes I don't have a ton of guest communication. I don't know if that's unusual or not. I don't see a need for 5, but Sergio also is around 5. And I'm really trying to understand what I'm missing. Where are you using them? How are you managing them? Like, why 5?
Okay, so that's a great question. And I use Sergio, he shared a while back how he had kind of set up timing and shifts and everything like that. And I use that for the basis. So maybe that's why. That's why. But I don't have 5 full time. I should kind of clarify that. There a few are part time. So I think in all there's about 4 full time positions, but that's basically the same, right? I do have a lot of guest communication. I do have a lot of folks reaching out. I don't have automated. I do a lot of automated messaging as well. In fact, something I was very proud of. I've had guests book, check in, check out, and I never actually interacted with them in extra messages. And I remember they left a review saying you were they sent a private message saying you were one of the most communicative hosts I've ever worked with. And I was like, that's amazing, because the messages I sent them and asking them, and then if there's an issue, they'd reach out. But right now we have it set up. We have a manager, or I have a manager who I meet with every week, and she and I go over kind of what the team's doing. She runs one-on-one coaching sessions with the team, which I then are then sent to me, and so that's kind of where most of my interactions come in. Is I have a team lead, and the team lead, she does a good job of making sure everybody's kind of set. And lately, in some of what we're doing for growth, I found I do want to talk to them a little bit more because I want to kind of get the boots on the ground perspective on things. And she will have a meeting, and then folks will reach out to me and kind of send me ideas like that. Really, it's because I want to have guest communication covered full time, and I don't see me needing that. I don't ever answer guest communication, and I always have somebody that's live that's ready to answer it. Also, we have a phone number that guests call all of the time. And that is it's wild to me because when I first started, I didn't have a number for people to call, or if I did, it was, I don't know, it was only through the apps. People call and text all the time, and having my team on that all the time is very, very helpful.
That's
So That's a warning to everybody with the phone number, because I too don't have a public facing phone number. Because yeah, the hotel mentality, like people love to pick up the phone and just make a phone call. So yeah. Any challenges you're finding having, like, how long have you been operating this model with 4 VAs, and like what are you like, oh, hard lesson?
So, I started off with people coming, people go. I had two for a long time, and the challenges are this. You sometimes you hire folks and they are great, and you can create great systems around them, and they really enhance things. But at the same time, with VAs and just the nature of the job, they're only going to be they're really, your systems will play a role in how good they are. And if you have good systems set up for them, then they will do it more closely aligned with what you're looking for. I will say that I've been lucky. I have some folks on the team right now. I've looked for people that have a little bit more experience, and they have been able to kind of fill in the gaps where our systems aren't the best. And from there, we've built it out. But I do think the challenges are, they're sitting on a computer and they're reactive, right? They're across the world. They're reactive to guest messages and whatnot. So something we're working on now, and we've done this before, is everybody has specific roles that they can work on. Somebody's our dispute resolution. Another person actually asked to be our Breezeway admin. So in Breezeway is a great resource if you want to use it for operations, especially for your appliances and they call them elements, where you basically assign, descriptions of everything in a property, and they want to work on that and streamline it more and basically be the eyes. So that is something that I've worked a little bit more on. I've thought about this a lot because it is one of the larger costs I have to have that, and people on payroll. But even if I were to get, say, an AI messenger, or even if I were to get something, some text solution for messaging, I would still want somebody always there so that there's a human that can respond to the guest right away. And I don't want that human to be me. And because what I want to do is I want to work on ways to enhance the scale and grow the business, but also enhance the guest experience. And I think that while I may adopt some sort of tech solution, but like say it's an AI messenger to answer kind of very easy questions and whatnot, I still want the team. I would then shift the team to focus on, first line of defense, but then also what's the next step they could take. Like I almost want to get like annoying with how much we message people at first when they first book, to kind of find out, what are you looking for when you're coming out? What do you want to do? And I would also like our team to kind of know them and introduce themselves to them. Like I kind of want to get to that level because it's getting pretty competitive in my market right now. I'm sure a lot of us are experiencing that. I've been doing okay this year. Revenues are down total, I think, in the market. We're stable. We're actually up a little bit. But you have to keep on improving to make it work. So I would still want to keep the team on, and I would want to I call them guest experience, but I kind of want them to only like focus on the guest experience and elevate the guest experience. So that would be the shift that I would do. So I'd still keep them, I think, regardless of any kind of tech solution.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say that. This is an endurance sport. You cannot slow down because it is such a competitive space. Yeah, so I feel that. Good.
Yeah, Alex, I'm curious about the phone number thing because I don't have a phone number. So I'm curious about how much you really do think that enhances things. And also about the documentation. Do you have like a documentation trail when you have the phone number? How does that work if you need to go back and reconstruct things and keep track of what's really going on with the communication?
Yeah, so I use Open Phone, and somebody probably referred it to me, and I actually have a couple of phone numbers. One is for a maintenance team and cleaners, maintenance staff, anybody, any kind of vendor, and then the other is customer service. And on our end, it looks like a text messaging center. It looks like a Slack or something along those lines. That's where we can follow everything. So also, what's kind of cool about it is we can then attach it to a guest. And so when that guest is texting with us, they'll put the property number on there. They'll put notes on there. It's might be a little bit extra. It might be easier to keep it in the OTA, or maybe it'd be easier to keep it in like whatever messaging thread we have. But we use it, and we use it a lot. And we use it a lot to kind of look at what was it that we had here. And maybe it increases messaging. Maybe we don't need it as much. But we found that, I've also gotten some pretty good calls from there, like people looking for property management and whatnot. So that also exists out there. But it's all in a central hub, and we can look back on everything, and it's actually helped us a lot too with like calls at certain times or text messages at certain times or whatnot. Not everything we have is through. I will say this too. When I first switched to, I mean, we have how many people on this call? We have 5 people. We've probably, all worked with like a total of like 20 property management softwares, right? When I first went to OwnerRez, which was a year and a half ago or so, I don't think it had a unified inbox either. So we were, the having the phone number took care of a lot of that for us.
Mm.
That enhances the guest experience, you think, on that end?
I've never had anybody complain that we had a phone number. I do think that it helps, it does help that we have somebody answer, but who knows, maybe when somebody calls, English isn't the native language for the whole team. And so when they call, they might think that we're just some corporate, I've never asked that question of the guests, and maybe I should. And maybe some people actually, treat my team differently because they think that they're not talking to somebody local. I don't know how that works, but I have found that a lot of people do like to use they do the phone, they do like to call. And from what I've seen, it seems like it helps.
Alex, I've got 2 questions from awesome content, by the way, as what you're sharing. So I've got 2 questions. You mentioned earlier on that you're looking potentially for an ops manager or somebody on the ground. Has there been any moments where you've thought, well, shall I reduce my VA team to get the budget for the ops person on the ground? Or is it a case of, I guess the question is, when do you make that decision to get somebody on the ground, go to a break-even point or even a negative just to get that person on the ground so you can then grow faster?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so, of course, I've looked at costs. Like, should I get rid of this tech? Should I, what could I do to provide them the dollars for this? So there's a big difference in the pay, just because of, I'd have somebody local, and the pay rate here is a lot different than what it is for the virtual assistant team. And so I wouldn't, if I could cut costs with the VA team, if I was looking to do that, it wouldn't be because I want to hire an ops person. So that wouldn't be the deciding factor. I would do that because I could run things more efficiently, and I could spread somebody, I could have somebody work more hours or whatever it was. But at the end of the day, there's X amount of hours in a week, and I want those covered. But the ops manager, that's an interesting thing. So I pulled, you guys ever write like intentions or goals or whatever it is, and you hide it for a year, and you're like, I'm going to look at that a year later, and then that's gonna, let's see, the universe will have create it for you. Well, I did that. I pulled this out like a week ago, and I almost cried, right? And it's on this list of, say, 15 things. I hit like 2 of them, and the other 13 are literally things I'm still working on. And what it was, I just didn't pull the trigger. So for the ops manager, I mentioned earlier, it comes to a point where I can't afford it. So this is what really pushed me over. So here's a couple of things. I've gone pretty far with the laundromat, and I want to talk about that. But the reason I bring that up is, at the end of the day, it would help with certain things. It would allow me to pull laundry off site. It would allow me to get some extra revenue. It would allow me to, it's a selling point, and it is beneficial. However, it's also, $1 million. I mean, we can go through numbers if you want to, but it's like $1 million investment for X amount of dollars to come in. So it's taken on debt. I could earn the same that I would get from that by taking on, 7 more clients or 10 more clients or something along those lines. And so that seems like a faster and safer, easier, less risk, less safer, but less risk way of me doing that to increase revenue. So the other day I had somebody reach out, and they want me to send out a proposal, which is another thing, by the way, I created in with AI. I've now have a outline for proposal because it was taking me forever. And I sat down to do it, and this is 9 o'clock at night, and I got an emergency call, and I had to go deal with something. I'm like, oh my gosh. Next day I had a concert I went to, so I didn't take care of that. The next day after that, I'm like, all right, I'm going to deal with these proposals right now. I have 4 of them sitting on my desk that I have to send out. And I didn't do it that night because I had another emergency, and and that was a 2-day emergency that, like, throughout the whole day. And maybe I shouldn't wait till the end of the day, but that's what kept happening, right? This last month, we've spent tens of thousands of dollars on AC. This is the hottest summer ever up here. We've spent fixing AC that even though I have maintenance team doing it, I'm coordinating things. The team across can only do so much. man, you get tired, you get burnt out, you get angry, right? You forget your purpose on this thing. You're just kind of running around like, man, like I've done things that I never thought I would do. I'm so comfortable pulling hair out of drains right now. Like that disgusts me. But here I am, like, oh, you got those little orange things for $1 each, and you put them in that drain, and you're pulling out globs, and you're in a hurry, so you don't care anymore. You just pull it with your hand, throw it in a paper towel, wipe it off, and leave. And like, I can't believe the stuff that I do now, right? And that's just on a small scale. And that is fine. But what it was, Liam, is I found myself sitting there at a property, working on something, ordering something, and I'm like, I'm not making money right now. Like I make, my properties make money, sure, but I'm not adding to my business because here I am only focused on this. I'm in this reactive state. And then what that did, in addition to that, is it keeps you in a reactive state. So when I finally do have some downtime, my brain, all it wants to do is look at my phone, not because I want to search, online or do whatever. It's because I'm waiting for that text. I'm waiting for that next email to come out and tell me what I have to do. And then when I get that, it's almost like a dopamine hit or a sense of relief. I'm like, I knew I was needed. And then I run off to a property or I do whatever. That has to go away because if I will be stuck here and I won't be able to grow. And I thought, I was like, well, maybe I'll get 12 more. Like I had a number in my head. I wanted to get to 53. That's when I was going to hire an ops manager because that's when the maths. And I realized when I have 4 sitting on the desk and I'm running around, I'm burnt out and whatnot. I'm like, no, I'm doing it now. So I created through AI, of course, and everything, an ops manager list. I'm sorry, a job profile about 6-7 months ago. I posted it on Indeed. I posted it on LinkedIn. And of course, what happens when you do that? I didn't know. I had like 300 or 400 applications, right? And so then what happens? Oh, I'm busy. Cleaning hair out of a drain. So I'm not looking at these things. And so it just kind of sat. I met with a recruiter and they, that would have helped with the process. But by that time I was like, I'm switching. I shifted focus and I started saying I had to take care of something else. So where am I at right now? I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to hire the person. I'm lucky. I have some funds that I can use to float this person, and they're going to be on, and I'm going to train them, and it might not work out. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't, then I go to the next person, or I look to hire somebody else. And if that person can take 2/3 of the things I don't like to do off my task list, then I can spend that time enhancing the experience for the guest and scaling and adding more properties. If I was going to hire a property manager, I would want somebody that has somebody to help them out too. It can't all be with me. It has to be, there has to be a team at certain levels.
Do you know, I really resonate with what you're saying because those times where you're busy doing the doing, someone's got to go and do stuff at certain times where you haven't got somebody to go and do it. I can relate to what you're saying about picking hair out of the drain. Earlier on today, I was tightening up toilet seats, and once upon a time, I'd be like getting the gloves and making it. Now you just get on with it, you get it done, and then you wash your hands after it. You just have to go and do stuff from time to time. And over the last couple of months, in the similar fashion to yourself, I've either had time to onboard new properties and send proposal and do that, but what happens is some of the operational stuff builds up, and then you get busy doing that, and you're not doing the other thing. There's only one of you, right, to be able to send out those new proposals. And I really think it's really important for the founder and the owner to be the person, at least at this stage, to reach out and build those new relationships and the community. But it's the opportunity cost, is what you're saying. Of if you didn't hire now, although you want to get to 53, ultimately you may not get there as quickly as if you hire now, take a hit for the income, and then you can grow off the back of that person. That really resonates. And the other thing that I was really glad you mentioned, because I said there was 2 questions, not to be greedy on everyone's time, but the second question was about the laundromat, because I myself have considered, I'm at 32 properties, and I want to take more control of the linen and the laundry, because I think there's a profit margin there that I'm giving away to some of the contractors that wouldn't be that hard to do myself. Now, obviously, like you've found, all the cost is up front. You need the place, you need the machinery, you've got to hire probably someone to do the ironing and operate it. But that then gives you the control. And is that your line of thinking? Is that why you're doing it?
Yeah. There's a few things there. So, I pay a contractor for the cleans. I don't have a team or staff that I pay hourly. So let's say a clean is $100. theoretically, if the laundry wasn't being performed by them, we could discount that. So let's say it would be, $25 off to clean. I have 60 turns a month, I think, is what I'm averaging, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less. If you do the math on that, it equals a pretty solid number. That number that I become a commercial client to a laundromat somewhere. If that laundromat was one, when I started looking at this, if that laundromat was one that I owned, that one commercial account, which was, my Great Stays management company, could pay, and basically that would cover the cost of a person doing the wash and fold. Or around here they call it wash and fold. That's when you drop off stuff and have it done. So when I saw that, I was like, well, I could pay somebody else for wash and fold, or I could, pay myself, and that made sense. And I was like, well, if you're going to do that at a laundromat, if you own a laundromat, you're also getting walk-in business from a laundromat. And I would run everything with as automated as possible. No coins. I would just do credit cards. I know you lose some business that way, but that way I don't have to pay somebody to go pick up coins. I don't have leakage. I don't have anything like that. And so I could, not only could I do this new venture, but I could do it with basically a commercial client going into it. So then what are the other reasons why I'd want to do that? I get a lot of folks that, the sheets, right? They might have a stain on them. And we all know they're clean. I mean, you feel so much bleach on these things and they're clean, but there's an eyelash or something like that. If when I have my cleaning team go to a property, and I have 30 properties and I'm working, even if they have a full staff, they show up at a property, they start it, they pull the laundry, they start the laundry. Well, then they go to the next property, then they go to the next property, and they have to go all the way around. They're not just sitting there waiting for the laundry to be finished. So we could substantially reduce the time that cleaners are at a property. If they pull it, put it in a bag, end of the day, somebody comes, picks it up, takes it to the laundromat, and the next morning they have everything ready for them. They have 10 cleans and they need 20 bed sets. If I had that folded and ready for them, and there's a quality control element to it, any kind of complaints and our ability to kind of control that would be there. The other thing is there's wear and tear on the machines. Those machines go through so many turns. I literally right now I have 2 buttons that I have to fix, and they're not buttons, but like the control knobs. And on washing machines, you don't just replace them. You got to pull off the whole thing. You got to put a new thing in there and then put it back. It's a pain. And I think that's a selling point. If I'm going to manage for somebody, I could say, hey, look, we're going to do laundry, but we're not going to do it at your house. We'll do linen service outside. Laundry is only being used by the guests that stay there. For me, it's the timing of the clean. It's the less wear and tear on the washing machine, lower utility, and then it's the control for the quality of the sheets as well. And then I also think overall you can also make money and generate revenue on the laundromat itself.
Just out of interest, then, do you hire the linen to them? Are you buying the linen and hiring it to the client, or are they buying the linen and then you're just laundering it for them?
So when they do a setup, we do a property setup, and they do three sets or whatnot. But we're rotating through them. So we always have one on the bed, we have one in the closet per bed, and then we have storage facilities kind of located throughout the city. Right now, it helps that I own real estate or the property has them, and then I do a buy every quarter, and we just kind of divide it up amongst the properties because some properties might burn through more than others, but it all seems to equal out.
And ultimately, it just means that if you're buying the same type, if you need it in property A or property B, you can do what you need to do with this kind of way of doing it. I like it.
Yeah. There's a lot of my properties have very similar bedding. I'll put it that way.
Okay, you're giving me inspiration. Thank you, Alex. That's all my questions.
Alex, I have one final question for you, and that is to get to that magic number of 53, I think you mentioned. What strategies do you have to get new properties? What's been your most successful strategy to generate new listings?
So the 53, no, that's not the target. The target would be 50. It was 53 to afford somebody. The target's way beyond that. Okay. I'd like to grow beyond that. What can I do? So far my growth has come through word of mouth, and I will say though, I have not spent as much time on it as I want. I'm not on social that I'm playing around with that a little bit more, uh, and whatnot. But I started to just put myself out there more. I've spoken to real estate groups. I talk to people. I'm a little bit more vocal about what I'm doing and what I'm working on. So I think I need to grow it for marketing. What am I going to do though? So let's say I have an operations person, and let's say that they're taking care of everything for me. I would push social more, and I would visit more real estate groups in the area. I'm lucky that I have a real estate background. A lot of folks in the industry know me, and I can kind of work that angle a little bit more. That's so for me. I'm part of some clubs, I guess you could say, in the city that have a lot of people of influence that are there. So I would just start, probably having a couple martinis, more martinis than I'm used to, and going out and greasing the gears.
Yeah, realtors are king for me for lead gen. Constantly, they want to help serve their clients.
So that's something interesting. Something that I found works is I've created like a spreadsheet, and we probably all use the same data, right? AirDNA or something along those lines. But I can create a spreadsheet. I compare it to long-term rental, and I show the two side by side, and I can create that for a real estate agent. Say, hey, look, this is what it looks like. If your client wants to do this, this is what it would be. And I always promote self-management as well. I think that somebody should manage the property if if they have the time. They should try it themselves, and then after a year they'll come to us because they realize how hard it is. But if they love it, then you have somebody who you've spoken with that's doing a good job. Because I do think that the more managers, the more property managers we have that do right and follow the rules and do right for their guests, I think the better it is for this community, because it's, we all know how it goes. There are folks out there that just do things that head scratchers, and they're making money, and it just hurts us all.
Yeah, regulations then kick in when we have bad managers.
Exactly. So but yeah, real estate agents, there we go.
So do you have any side hustles beyond like smaller things like because right now I'm looking at, okay, what are some of the information products that I can sell that are just for these self-managers? Because I don't want to get into coaching. I don't want to get into that. But people are like, what do I need in my unit? Or like, I always get that. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I have a list. But now I'm like, maybe there's some affiliate fees to grab from some of the vendors.
So, all right. So I would love to do more. So I'm gonna give away. I'll just talk about everything I'm doing, and as you can tell, I love to talk. So first something that I'm gonna get into. We filmed our first commercial at one of my properties the other day, and it was the Detroit Lions, the NFL team. They somehow, I don't know how this is even legal now. I guess it is. They had a partnership with like the lottery, so it's a gambling commercial. But it's like this thing that they show during the games, and they rented a house. They created this whole thing, and it's amazing. I saw it on TV the other day. I thought that was great. So while that's not a side hustle, it's the same as short-term rentals. It's more based on movies. And I worked some connections. I recently had some lunches and dinners with folks that are writing the legislation that will hopefully bring a tax credit to the state. And then that's something I'm going to focus on, because I think that's ancillary income but that's for the property owner. But it's great income. Their stay was, they stayed at the property for 4 days, and then they rented it one day for video shoot. That one day was more than those 4 days combined. So that's one thing though that I want to kind of get into, especially with, if competition increases for the stays, I want to get more, a little bit more commercial. I have started, although I would say I haven't really mastered, like a Viator or Minoan for Minoan to sell the property, not the property, the furnishings, or Viator for tours. Although I do think that those could be fantastic. When I first looked at Viator, there's one tour in the city. And so it wasn't really too much on there, but I think the more that might, or your area grows, then you could monetize that. Something I'm doing though right now, I wrote an ebook, and the ebook to sell, and it's to help folks mostly in my region who want to turn their home into a short-term rental. A lot of folks, might have to leave the region. They still have the home. They don't want to sell it just yet. They might not want to get over, they might be a little, there's a lot to do, and they're afraid of it. So the ebook is focused on them, and how can I automate it? How can I help them automate it? and know that it can be a very, very joyful experience. But in that, I have recommendations for software. And then that's actually, some of those software already have affiliate links, some of them don't. Then that's on the to-do list. Try to find that. And then in addition to that, there's I think we all know that there are benefits for somebody that self-manages. There are tax benefits, especially if they, there's a depreciation thing they can do as a real estate professional. And I believe there are referrals for that. But I really think that it would be more like, for that, it's information, and the more you help, then you can kind of grow up from there, because then people want to work with you and it's your exposure. But I don't have any kind of, like, as of right now, I do have some small businesses that we work together. But once Airbnb kind of changed their rules, we pulled back, because I didn't want somebody claiming that this was a fee they didn't know about, or Airbnb claiming that we tried to collect money outside of the side of it. So I'm trying to figure that out a little bit better.
As you were saying, Alex, there's unfortunately just so many hours in the day and so much to do during that time. Alex, we all really wanted to thank you for joining today on the Real Hosts podcast. For those of you watching, we meet every 2 weeks and talk about different aspects of the short-term rental industry. We often have guests on, like Alex today. And if you enjoyed what you saw, if you feel that this would be helpful to others, please share it, like it, and join us again for another episode on The Real Hosts. Thank you again for joining us.
Just before we go, is it worth just mentioning Alex's business, because he'll get some eyes on the business?
Of course. My apologies, Alex. If you can let people know how to find you, if they want to reach out to you, that would be great.
Yeah, just my website, Great Stays is the company. It's greatstays.co or greatstays.co. And that is the best way. And I'm sure you'll find that phone number we were talking about on there, and they can call that too.
Super.
And buy the ebook when it's on there.
Oh, yeah. When that's done, I wish I had that link, of course. Oh, that would be amazing. Maybe I'll post it. I was working out with my friend this morning, and I tagged, that commercial came out, and I tagged my Great Stays Instagram, and he's like, "Hey, you tagged your Great Stays Instagram. I was going to follow it." It's like, "But then I saw you hadn't posted in 2 years." So he's like, "It's not worth it." And my point is, like, you got to stay active, right? So I just decided, I'm a goofy guy. I decided, every time I'm at a property pulling hair out of drain or working on something, I'm just, I meant to do it on this too. I'm just going to, like, take a screenshot and say, "Look this is me," and then start sharing it.
Amazing.
Hey, so I'm gonna do a screenshot right now. You guys all hold on a second. Oh no, it's my thumb.
Absolutely.
Man, I look old. All right.
Great. Alex, again, thank you again for joining us. And for everyone, we will see you on the next episode of The Real Hosts. Goodbye for now.
Thanks, everyone.